What if you could literally read the source code of your own subconscious? What if there was a blueprint that explained exactly how your thoughts get organized, prioritized, and, well, turned into action? Today, we're looking at this really fascinating script that claims to be just that. So let's dive in and see what this is all about. Okay, at first glance, this just looks like computer code, right? I mean, you've got these cryptic symbols, these weird labels like schema and context, and some super strict rules. It feels technical, almost alien. But here's the twist. This isn't code for a machine. It's a proposed language for the mind. We're going to decode this whole thing together, piece by piece.
And that is the big idea we're exploring here. We're totally shifting our perspective. We're not treating this as some abstract code. We're looking at it as a practical blueprint for structuring our own thinking. This is our journey today, to uncover a system that could give us conscious control over our subconscious processes.
So where do you even begin with a blueprint like this? Well, you start at the highest level, right? With the master plan itself. Let's start by decoding the core component, the schema, to really get the foundational principle of this entire system. So here's the crucial point. The schema tells us to stop thinking of our mind as just one single thing. Instead, picture it like a super efficient company. This system gives every single thought process, like analyzing, creating, or deciding, its own specific job title, its very own functional role. And where do all these specialized mental workers do their jobs? Well, they work on what the schema calls subconscious planning pipelines. Just think of it like a mental assembly line. An idea goes in one end, and each mind role does its specific task in order until a fully formed plan or decision just pops out the other end.
Okay, so we've got our specialized workers and their assembly line. But who's the manager? Who's directing all of this traffic? That brings us to the next big piece of the blueprint, the control system.
And that is the console. You can think of it as the cockpit or the command center of your mind. It has one job and one job only: to direct your focus. It's the part of the system that decides what gets the spotlight of your attention, and that's how it manages all of those mind roles and pipelines. Now, the way the console works is what's really, really powerful here. It all kicks off when you consciously adopt a cognitive stance. Think of this as choosing your mental mode for the task at hand. Are you in problem-solving mode, creative brainstorming mode, or maybe deep analysis mode? Once you've set that stance, the system just naturally helps you navigate your attention, which leads to total controlled focus. So we have the roles, the pipeline, and the manager. Now we get to the final, and honestly, maybe the most powerful piece of this whole puzzle, the communication protocol. These are the strict, unbreakable rules, the syntax, that govern how this entire system talks to itself. The very first rule of this internal language is all about radical simplicity. It commands a minimal dictionary. What that means is you use the smallest, simplest vocabulary you possibly can to define a task, a goal, or a problem for your subconscious to get to work on. I know it seems a little backwards, doesn't it? But just think about how powerful this limitation really is. When you use fewer, more precise words, you eliminate ambiguity, you get rid of confusion, and you stop wasting mental energy on interpretation. It forces you to have absolute clarity right from the very start. And building directly on that first rule is the second one, shortest sentence. So it's not just about using simple words, it's about building the simplest, most direct commands you possibly can. We're talking headlines here, not paragraphs. So, how does this actually help us out? It's simple, really. Short, direct commands are instantly executable. They are crystal clear work orders for the mind roles on your mental assembly line. Draft email, outline project, solve equation. There's no doubt, no hesitation, just a clear, immediate signal for action. And now we get to the final and I'd say most critical rule of the syntax. There is a strict order, a non-negotiable sequence that every single one of these processes has to follow. This is the operational backbone of the entire system. And this sequence, as you can see, is unbreakable. It is always focus, then action, and finally feedback. You just can't act effectively if you haven't established focus first, and you can't get any meaningful feedback until you've actually taken an action. This logical flow makes sure that your mental energy is never, ever wasted. Decide, do, then learn, in that order, every single time. All right, let's just step back for a second and put all of these decoded pieces together.
We started with this cryptic-looking script, but now we can actually see the full architecture of a really powerful system for orchestrating our own subconscious.
So here it is, the whole system in one neat package. The schema is the organizer. It gives every thought a job. The console is the manager. It directs your focus with intention. And the syntax? Well, that's the crystal clear communication protocol that makes sure the entire operation runs with absolute maximum efficiency.
So what started as this piece of mysterious code has become a clear, actionable blueprint for more structured, more focused, and ultimately more effective thinking. The real takeaway here isn't just that this is some abstract theory, it's a potential operating system that you can consciously choose to install in your own mind.
And that really brings us to the final, and I think most provocative thought. This whole blueprint suggests that our mind can be programmed with intention. So the question it leaves us with is this. If your thoughts really were a program and you now have the syntax to write it, what's the first line of code you would write?